It's not often that I get the chance to review a game on my channel. Normally I just stream and occasionally upload random videos, but today I'm doing something different and I'll be reviewing the PlayStation 4 port of Dead by Daylight, a game developed by Behavior Interactive, who are best known as the ones who made the Naughty Bear games, which I really enjoyed, and Wet, the Max Payne style game with a lot of slow motion and cool moves. You may also remember these devs as Artificial Mind and Movement. Full disclosure, before I get too far into this video, I was given review copies of the game for myself and friends so we could play together while I worked on this review. This is pretty new to me. I've never been given review copies of a game before. While I'm extremely grateful to get codes for the game, I'll still review the game fairly. If you've watched my streams this past week, then you've seen that I do have some complaints about the game, and I won't shy away from them. Anyway, Dead by Daylight released back on June 14th, 2016 on Steam. Just a bit over a year later, the game has been ported over to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and it was released on June 23rd, 2017. The console version costs $30 and includes all of the DLC released for the Steam version, minus the Headcase Cosmetic DLC that released about 2 weeks ago, and the Halloween DLC that includes Michael Myers as a killer due to licensing issues. Thankfully, they've said that one will come to consoles soon, and I would imagine the Headcase one will as well. I imagine most people who are watching this already know the basic mechanics for the game and are just curious how it performs on PS4, so I won't go too deep into gameplay, but for those who aren't aware, Dead by Daylight is a 4 versus 1 multiplayer game where one person plays as the killer and 4 others are playing as survivors who work together to escape. I'm playing the game on a PlayStation 4 Pro where the game seems to stay above 30 frames per second most of the time. I've rarely seen it drop, and just going off of my eyes, I'd say it's usually around 40 FPS. The only time I have frame rate issues seems to be while playing as a killer, but I haven't noticed it too much. I have seen others on the normal PlayStation 4 say that it dips more often while playing as a killer over there. Unfortunately, there aren't any PS4 Pro features or upgrades, but it does seem like the boost mode is helping with the frame rate. The graphics on the PS4 port seem pretty decent compared to the PC version. From the few hours I've put into the game on PC on max settings, it feels like the PS4 version is somewhere around a medium in comparison, and I haven't noticed any screen tearing. The textures are good, especially on the character models, but on things like trees, generators, boxes, and other objects on a map, they've made them look almost like a painting, I guess. I can't think of a better way to put it, other than that it looks like the textures were painted onto the objects. I really like this. I'm not sure if it's a way to get around the low-res textures or something, but it looks really good, and that's all that really matters. One of my only complaints with the game is that it's peer-to-peer, and unfortunately there are no dedicated servers, but this has been a complaint since the game released a year ago on Steam, and it doesn't seem likely to be implemented any day soon. Normally the connection is perfectly fine, at least during the day, but if I try to play later at night, there's a good chance I'll have someone further away or outside the US hosting, and that's where I start to have lag issues. And it can get pretty bad with you skipping all around while you're trying to hide behind a tree or something. A lot of people are going to compare this game to Friday the 13th, which is inevitable since that one just released and there aren't many other survivor versus killer multiplayer games out there, especially on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. As a huge fan of the Friday the 13th franchise, and someone who has sunk around 50 to 60 hours into the Friday the 13th game and backed it on Kickstarter, I can say without a doubt that there is enough room for both of these games, and they both hit very different notes. Friday the 13th is a bit more of a janky, buggy game where there's more ways to escape, more hiding places, and you have the ability to kill Jason if you work hard enough. But on the other side is Dead by Daylight, a game where you can't kill the killer or fight back with anything more than a flashlight. However, it's a much more polished and competitive game with more maps, killers, and a deeper XP system. Escaping is not as important in Dead by Daylight as it is in Friday the 13th, and that goes for both the survivors and the killers. In Friday the 13th, the end goal for each match is to escape, while in Dead by Daylight, your main goal should be to rack up as many blood points as possible. Blood points are sort of like XP, which you use to buy items on the Blood Web, which is pretty much a skill tree that when cleared will advance you to the next level with a whole new set of things to buy. Along with perks and items like toolboxes, medkits, and flashlights, you also get add-ons for items and offerings. Offerings are used up at the start of a match and increase the chances of going to a specific level you like, dimming the moonlight so the killer has a harder time seeing you, increasing every survivor's luck, starting the match near one of the other players, etc., etc. There is a lot of them, and the killer gets them too, but the ones that he gets are going to help him out, like brightening the moonlight, starting everyone away from each other, spawning less item chests on the map, and the list goes on. The skill tree system in Dead by Daylight is much more polished and involved compared to the perk system in Friday the 13th, where you're just rolling a perk at random. Leveling up in Friday the 13th also felt useless after unlocking Part 9's Jason at level 30, unless you really cared about the counselor clothing you get every few levels. I've only run into one bug in the PS4 version of Dead by Daylight, where matchmaking will stop working and I'll have to do a quick restart of the game to get it working again. Nothing major compared to the crashing and game-breaking bugs that often will occur in Friday the 13th. Dead by Daylight feels like a much more complete game with more to do, and for $10 less than Friday the 13th as well. Again, that's coming from someone who loves that game, but while Friday the 13th is the game you play when you want to screw around with friends, Dead by Daylight is the one you play when you want to be a bit more competitive and feel like you're putting time into the game, making progress in each character or killer, and you're getting stuff in return for your time and effort. I think both of these games can sit side by side without needing to pick one over the other, as they feel very different from each other. But, even though I'm a big Friday the 13th fan, if you can only get one today, then I definitely recommend Dead by Daylight. It's the one that feels more complete, with more maps, more killers that all play differently from each other, a more fleshed out and more rewarding XP system, and overall I've had more fun this past week playing Dead by Daylight than I have with Friday the 13th. Once again, thank you Behavior Interactive for the review copies of the game, and thank you everyone for watching my review.